to Shattering Myths. Fortunately, we have Kirk with us. He was not actually off during the commercial break. I appreciate you calling in, even though I used you as an example.
Yeah, well, I thought we were buddies, but okay.
I figured that since we are buddies, it would make that I could use you as the example, and then everybody would know. I would know for certain that I was kidding.
I was just kidding, Your Honor.
Yeah, I was just kidding, Your Honor. Yeah, you took me literally. Took me out of context. It was that Louis Farrakhan tape is chilling, isn't it?
I tell you, when I was listening to it, I came to the same conclusion y'all did right after. I said, look, I wrote down this is this would qualify as hate speech, inciting a riot, or conspiring to
commit mass murder. Yeah,
mass murder.
Mass murder.
And that usually when you hear somebody have a conversation like that, you go to the police and they arrest them.
Right.
And any normal human being. But,
yeah.
But I do remind people that in every
you're not going to get arrested.
America, they're doing this every Friday.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, in the mosque. Yeah, it's true. And around the world, not only in America's mosque, but around the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I also found it interesting, Kirk, that Yahowah speaks in the Torah and Devarim of swearing an oath.
Yes.
Yeah, of engaging in a promise, affirming a promise. And, you know, it's first come to have respect for him and come to know who he is and, you know, determine that he's worthy, that he's honorable, that he's dependable. That's in the respect idea, that he has our best interest at heart. And then come to revere him, which is to come to like him. If you're going to spend eternity with him, you ought to at least like him. And then the idea that beyond that, we ought to engage. We ought to act upon what he is offering. And then this idea of swearing an oath, of telling him, yeah, I want to be part of the covenant. Yes, I want to be part of your family. Yeah, this is what I want.
Well, a covenant is a contract. I mean, it is an agreement. A marriage contract is a marriage contract. You are agreeing, I am swearing to set aside everything for you.
Right.
So, I mean, of course it's an oath.
It's an oath. Yeah, if the way you act upon the terms and conditions of the covenant is to promise to do as Yahowah has requested. Now, you're not required to do that. You're only required to do it if you want to be part of his family. If you come to respect him and like him and view him as important and worthy, and you want to be with him for all time, then by all means, Yahowah wants you to affirm that. And what's so interesting, it was written in the Niphal stem, which means that by affirming the validity of Yah's testimony and promise, you benefit from his testimony and promise. That's powerful. So it's by acting that you're acted upon. It's by promising that you benefit from the promise, that you receive the promise. You know, there's just so much in Hebrew that we miss if we ignore the stems.
Well, you know the part about where Moshe is with Yahowah and he glows. You can't stand next to the light and not become shiny.
Right.
So, I mean, there's nothing you can engage with him where you're not going to benefit from.
Right. And Moshe just wasn't standing by him, although he was standing. Not just standing by him. He was engaged, listening to what he had to say so he could write it down. And that's how, and, you know, he was passionately engaged, and that is how, as a student of Yahowah's teaching, he was learning, and that's the reason he glowed. He was enlightened.
Let me ask you a quickie.
Sure.
American Christians, they're going to worship according to the King James. Two things come to mind. Americans revolted against kings, but they loved King James, and they loved that authority that was rewritten pretty much just to satisfy King James, to make him a king. And then they, as well, I lost my thought here. Then But they claim like they care what Yosha said, but they never quote anything he says.
No, it's like Paul. Yeah, it's like Paul. He claims that he is representing him and cares about what he has to say, and he makes one feeble attempt to quote him in all of his 13 letters, and even then he misquotes him.
Huh?
And takes what he said out of context to convey the exact opposite of what he was communicating.
So this guy that writes you this email, he seems to be in love with kings and lords.
Right.
Everybody knows Baal is Lord, is a translation of is the Hebrew for Lord. I mean, you can look it up anywhere.
Anywhere.
And everybody knows when you look up Lord, it always comes up Yahowah.
Right.
I mean, in the Christian publishers, Strongs, all of them, right next to it, Yahowah.
Yeah, well, I got a response from True Science. He says, thanks for your response. And then he says, and that was it. I mean, it's not, wow, what you've demonstrated here is that the Christian New Testament is unreliable.
Or maybe I should go back and review what my thoughts are on this.
Well, yeah, maybe I should think this through because wow, what you just cited was enlightening, but that's just not the nature of people. And it's just not. So he goes on to the next point. When somebody reveals something that evidently obliterates the point you were trying to promote, and Yahowah's testimony destroys it, what religious people do, and I don't know if this person is religious or not, and I don't know this person's motive, so I'm just telling you in general, not specifically, but in general, what they do is they come for the next point. That's why I found that debating a religious person is a complete waste of time. Because if they make a statement and you prove that the statement they have made is untrue, in a genuine debate, it's over. They've lost. If you make a statement in debate and somebody can demonstrate that your statement is invalid, then the debate's over. You've lost. You don't get to go on to the next point. But what religious people always do is they just go on to the next point. Now, I'm not saying that this fellow True Science is religious, but listen to what he says. Thanks for your response, period. What is your opinion about any doctrine that says the Torah, or more precisely particulars of the Torah, can and have been changed, removed, and added to? Is this entirely false or no? Change the subject. Why change the subject at that point? Why not deal with that passage where here's God saying that you ought to engage with Him, that you ought to come to know Him, you ought to have some respect for Him, and come to like Him, and that we ought to affirm that we are committed to the terms and conditions of the covenant. And we'll be transformed if we do, and you just say, okay, well, thanks for the response. And then you go on to the next point. And
should there be a follow-up that says, and tell me more?
No, but my response to what is your opinion? What does my opinion have to do with the price of potatoes in France?
No.
Good God, I just cited for you Yahowah's opinion, if he's entitled to have one. Why would you want my opinion if Yahowah has an opinion? What did Yosha do when somebody asked a question like that? He says, well, what does it say?
Yeah, go to the Torah.
Well, what does it say in the Torah? It says, what does it say about adding to or subtracting from or changing something in the Torah? What does it say?
It says, don't do it.
It says, don't add anything to it. Don't subtract anything from it. What did Yosha say in the very Sermon on the Mount that comes in the midst of this, right in between the 4th and the 6th chapter of Mount Yah that he quoted? What did he say about taking away from a statement in the Torah? What did he say?
I said, it hadn't come to change one jot or one tittle.
Yeah, the jot is the smallest letters, the yod. And the tittle is the stroke sum that comprise the other Hebrew letters. Don't think that I've come to change any of them. And so in the midst of that, you would ask me my opinion on it? Yosha gave you his conclusion on it. Yahowah gave you his conclusion on it. Why would you ask? Why is this even relevant? How could you have a question like this and be citing from a book that answers that question? I mean, how could you be more emphatic then do not think that I came to annul the Torah. Not a single yod, the smallest Hebrew letter, the first letter in Yahweh's name, in his name, by the way, or tittle, the strokes that comprise the other letters in the Hebrew alphabet, shall be annulled, shall be done away with, so long as the heavens and earth exist. And you say, can it be changed? Has it been changed? What do you say to those that say it can and has been changed?
Well, you can't change it. You can't change it, and if you change it, then you're violating everything that Yahweh said. When
Correct.
Changing His name, the Lord, is unforgivable.
Well, it is an unforgivable sin. That's what he asked.
Unforgivable.
The third statement he asked in stone.
Going right in stone. The first thing came down from the mountain. This ain't going to happen with me.
Yeah. I mean, you feel like with this fellow, rather than answering his question, you got to say, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you that you would ask this question? I feel exactly as Yosha felt when the rabbis, the religious types, or the scribes, the political types, tried to trip him up by asking questions. They weren't really in search of information. They thought that their questions would trip him up and cause problems for him. And so that's what this guy is doing. And you feel exactly like he did. He said, what does it say, moron? What does the Torah say in this regard? And that's what you feel like saying is, what in the world is your problem?
Yeah, if they don't find it fascinating, then
why? Already answered. It gets right down to, in fact, one of the things he talked about is, that in the Sermon on the Mount, it talks about, just don't pray in public. Your Heavenly Father already knows what you need, and He is the giver of the good gift, which is the doorway to life in the Sermon on the Mount. And then that's when he starts to speak about the affirming the Torah. And so this idea is that if you look at this in context, you realize that God's already answered that question. He's already provided us the answer. We ought not be asking Him for the answer, much less asking a person for their opinion on the answer. Why would you ask God the answer when He's already answered it? And that's the whole problem with Christian prayer, is they go on talking about all the things they want when God's already provided the answer for everything they need. Yesterday, during your day off, not that this is work or that you're compensated for doing it, but on Wednesdays, because you have classes you teach and your classes go late on Tuesday, and you live on the West Coast, so this program starts awfully early in the morning on Wednesday. But I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the archive on Wednesday. It was an interesting discussion, and that Roy had sent me references to Sheol or the Sheol, as to which ones should be translated Sheol as the place of separation from Yahweh versus Shaul, the individual who created the Christian religion and is the author of half the Christian New Testament. And so he sent me a passage from Hosea. And the reason that I thought it was so important is this passage from Yahowah Isaiah specifically references the intoxication, the impaired judgment of Ephraim.
Right.
As the problem. That's who the warning is against. And you and I discussed that if you want to understand why the reference would be to Ephraim, which at the time of Yahowah didn't exist, why he would reference Ephraim in a prophetic statement, you have to read Hosea, where Yahweh's relationship, actually lack thereof, with Ephraim is disclosed. That's the basis of the prophetic portrayal, is that Ephraim represents the religious infidelity, the religious paganism of the northern kingdom. Of those tribes that were not only about to disappear because they'd be hauled away, never to return into Assyria, every city destroyed, he was specifically condemning Ephraim for being religious and all the religious temples and artifacts, but for promoting the Lord, Baal.
Right off of the first stone. I mean,
right
off the first stone. That's hot button.
Right.
Don't do this. Don't do this.
Right. In fact, Larry on our Shabbat show brought out the passage where Ephraim is defined as a religious entity in league with the Lord, Satan.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, Ephraim was wrong and in opposition to Yahowah.
Absolutely.
And therefore was as good as dead, according to Yahowah. So it's defined. So you would expect, Yahowah being the master communicator, that he would have made a reference to Sheol, since it's obvious in Yahshua that the reason he begins by offering the warning to the intoxicated of Ephraim is he's talking to those whose judgment has been impaired by the most popular religion of all time, Pauline Christianity. Right. So you would expect somewhere where he's setting the case up for us, the example up, and Hosea, in discussions about Ephraim, that he would have mentioned Sheol, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. I must be getting a little smarter, because I had come to the same conclusion that Roy had, that there's got to be, I ought to be looking up every one of these shows and seeing what they really say. But I went a different tack. I just didn't have enough time. Right now, I was looking up Ephraim, trying to figure out what the triggers are, his rise and demise as well. But absolutely, when you went through it, and you were not kind enough to send me a copy of that email, it's indeed good going, Roy, and of course William, for getting us started down this road.
Yeah.
But,
and here's the statement that is in Hosea 13:14. From the possession, from the lordship, from the control of Sheol. This is Paul, the author of half the Christian New Testament, the founder of the Christian religion. From the control, the lordship of Sheol, I shall redeem them. From the plague of death, Maweth, I shall deliver them. Where is your plague of death? Where is your destruction, O Sheol? In Chabauk, Yahowah specifically says that the soul that is Sheol is the plague of death. And here he's saying, okay, Sheol, when I'm redeeming them, where is your plague of death? Now, I don't know how many he's going to redeem. But what this says specifically is there will come a day where Yahowah is going to redeem a number of people who were formerly under the control, under the lordship of, influenced by Christianity. And that he's going to redeem them from Christianity. You and I are both witnesses, examples. Yeah, you better hunker down, Kirk. I don't know if you know it, but rather than having Scott do the offing, it's the Chinese government. They've got 6 warships now off the left coast of America. They're going to invade.
Sure.
So I want you to duck now.
In a minute.
Yeah, it's so funny that they're so sick of the rhetoric of the Abominator that they sent these 6 warships up to the coastal waters off Alaska while he was playing Weather God up there, and so I thought it was hilarious. So now it's they're being provocative. They've now we send our Navy within 100 miles of the Chinese coast with great regularity. We overfly their territory in our spy planes, and we do it with great regularity. But if they're in international waters 200 miles off our coast, oh my God, they're being provocative.
Provocative. Yeah, the fact that we move things right up to the coast of Syria and about to bomb them and tell them we're going to bomb them. Oh, yeah, right, sure.
Yeah, okay. So this statement, from the possession of Sheol, which would be Pauline Christianity, from being possessed by the same demonic spirit that possessed Paul and is the basis for Christianity, from the possession of Sheol, from the New Testament, of which he is the author, I shall redeem them. Can God redeem people from eternal separation from him?
Well, I was gonna challenge you on that on two points.
Okay, all right.
He can't really, in a sense, as a place of separation. He can't go in and get. However,
Right.
there are two exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Yosha, obviously, soul was in there and he got it out.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a time when, pardon me, there's a time when Satan would be in there, and he's going to let him out for a short period of time, so that people have an option. But
and I was aware of that when I made the statement.
I figured you were.
But Yahowah didn't go in there to get Yosha's soul
They
out.
called him out.
Yeah, he didn't go in there he's not going to go in there to let Satan out. It is a prison. The prison has a door.
Right.
Yeah. Yahowah is capable of confining people in it, which means that he has the ability to open and shut that door.
Mm-hmm.
So he opens the door when he wants to put souls in to confine them, and this is a symbolic door. I mean, it's I think Sheol is best understood as a black hole. So symbolically, Yahowah has the power and the ability, operating in 7 dimensions in what I think is essentially a one-dimensional construct. Mm-hmm. Maybe 2, but I think it's a one-dimensional construct. I think it's a period, if you will, that's infinite in time. So maybe it's a 2-dimensional construct. It's a line. Well, a line in one direction is one dimension. So it's a one-dimensional construct. And Yahowah in 7 dimensions has the ability to open and close that door. He opens the door to thrust Satan and his demons in. He opens the door to allow them out on occasion. Mm-hmm. He will, at one time, lock that door forever. And that's the end of the millennial Shabbat. He lets them out, and then he puts them back in, forces them back in, and locks the door forever.
Right. Okay.
He was not with Yosha's soul in Sheol.
No, it can't be.
But he definitely provided an opening of that door for Yosha's soul to emerge on Bakurim. We're not told how Yosha found the opening, how he navigated the opening. All we know is that Yahowah opened the door.
Well, he created it. I know he can do what he wants.
Right. But he can't go in there.
No, because he said that's separation from me. So
right. Right. So Yahowah did not spare the punishment from Yosha. So he did not redeem Yosha. He didn't buy him back. Yosha was redeeming us by going there. And so Yosha did not and cannot redeem anyone in the place of separation. Yahowah, for example, cannot and will not redeem any demon or Satan.
No.
Yahowah has said that those who are going to Sheol are those who have led people away from him, particularly devalued the importance of his name. And what does he say about forgiving them in this 3rd statement?
Ain't going to happen.
He says, can't, I won't.
Can't, won't. It's unforgivable. No.
So even though I was aware that he opened the door to force them in, and locked it behind him, and opened the door to let Yosha's soul out, and will open the door to let Hasatan's and the demon souls out, and then push them back in and lock the door. That there is a portal into that singular dimension, and that Yosha has the ability to open and close it.
Yeah.
But he does not have the ability. And by the way, I don't mind being challenged. I hear
I didn't think it was a big thing, but people that listen, they're liable to say, "Well, wait a minute." So I said, "Well, let's go ahead and clarify that a little bit."
Yeah, I was thinking it when I was making a statement. Well, he has the ability to open and close the door. He does not have the ability to go in, and he does not have the ability to redeem anyone inside.
No, the judgment is, especially on Judgment Day, when he really lines them all up, says, if you're there, there's nothing's going to stop that at that point.
Right.
You cannot get out of that hole.
Right. So it says, from the plague of death he shall deliver them. And in both Yeshaya, Isaiah in the 28th chapter, and also in Habakkuk in the 2nd chapter, Habakkuk, Yahowah calls Sheol the plague of death.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, from the plague of death, I'm going to deliver them.
You know, interestingly enough, when we were talking about the fading flower,
right.
You know, the other one, that's Baal, you know, NBL, or if you add a hay to the end of it from that stem, you get carcass. And I thought, how interesting, he's calling them death there.
Wow. Yeah.
But all you do is add a hay, which is a person, you know, at the end.
Right, yeah.
And then it's that's the word for carcass.
Carcass, dead. Yeah.
So it's more than just a fading flower. Almost sounds poetic, you know, like when we get old and we're not as handsome or as pretty, you know, as pretty as they were. That's almost too poetic. I mean, he's talking about fading away to dead.
Yeah. Speaking of women and pretty, Terry did send me an email and she said that she is longing for the Patriot necklace and wants you to get the bullets in 9mm size.
Oh yeah, he's like a bullet-wearing person.
Yeah. It's the counter. It's the counter to Louis Farrakhan is to wear your bullets where it counts. Just kidding again. All right. So just as a greater affirmation that, and we don't need much because Yahowah cannot. If you're a possession of Sheol, if you are possessed by Hasatan or his demons, and you are lorded over in Sheol, you are controlled by Sheol, then Yahowah cannot redeem you.
Mm-hmm.
He can't save you deliver you from the plague of death. Now, so he's definitely speaking of Sheol because we can be redeemed and freed from. Right. Because you and I have been. So we
were right in the thick of it.
Right to proof. Now, as added proof that this is Shaul, Paul, the author of the Christian New Testament, it says, where is your sovereign now to save you in all of your cities? This is before. This is the 11th statement versus the 14th. Where is your sovereign now to save you in all of your cities, and your rulers of whom you said, give me a sovereign and rulers? Whoa. There's two bullseyes here. One is there any place in the Torah, Prophets, and Psalms that we find a call from men and women for a sovereign and king to save them?
Well, obviously it's the King Saul reference, but it goes beyond that,
you betcha.
They kept having kings.
But that is the reference he's referring to.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And it was King. What was the guy's name again?
Shaul.
Oh yeah, same name, isn't it?
Mm.
Oh yeah. Okay. So that is it. So with Shaul, he's telling you that just as you relying on this man to save you, and Shaul, Paul, claims to have provided salvation, just as Christians have relied on men, like even the Roman Catholic Church, to save them, just as the Israelites wanted King Saul to save them. He's saying, so where's your Savior? How many people have become dependent on their government? And when the government fails them, who's going to save them? Who's going to save you now?
Yeah, how many people think that the military is saving you?
Right. Didn't Yahowah, immediately after the children of Israel wanted a king, a sovereign, to save them, didn't he say, he's going to establish a military, he's going to take your sons, and your sons are going to die in battles that he's going to fight for his own self-interest? He's going to steal your wealth, he's going to steal your freedom. So didn't Yahowah, in this exact context, say, I told you that your sovereign was counterproductive. I told you that patriotism and politics government was bad for you. So now, where's your government to save you?
Yeah, these are the people that every Shabbat could read out of the Torah that Yahowah destroyed the greatest empire on earth at the time, Egypt. I mean, who needs a damn army? Excuse me.
Right. Yeah, Yahowah said, I'm going to save you. They've got an army. You've got none. I'll save you.
Boy, my promises ain't no good anymore all of a sudden.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting here now also that if you're talking about relying on a sovereign, relying on your rulers to save you. If you were to pick up the book labeled the Bible, and you were to read it, where would you find one of the writers of the Bible saying that governments serve your interest, they were good for you?
Well, you will only find it from Paul.
Yeah, in Romans 13.
And he said, bow down to him.
Yeah.
Put them in place to serve,
Yeah, right. Yeah. Be subservient to them. Submit to them.
You don't need a government to help.
Right. So Paul is endorsing the very thing that God says, you know what, this is really bad for you. And so it's a double bullseye. It's another shot. Make the connection. Who was the one person that spoke on behalf of the sovereign, that the sovereign was going to save you? And God's saying, yeah, okay, where's your sovereign now, pal?
Only Paul.
Only Paul. Where's the sovereign in all your city? Where's the rulers whom you said, give us a ruler? Yeah, where? It's all laid out for you. All you have to do is be open-minded, open your eyes, study the testimony, make the connections, form the conclusions. It's all there for you. Undeniable. God was clear. But he is at least willing to redeem us from Christianity, so long as we're willing to leave it. Kirk, we have Tommy on the line. Tommy's called in before. He has a daughter that he's taught the Torah, if I've got the right, numerous daughters that he's taught the Torah, if I have the right Tommy. And in the midst of all of this, I know you wanted either to make a statement or ask a question, Tommy, so the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Well, since you introduced me that way, it's funny that this is coming from my daughter's study for the last 2 weeks. They've been reading Samuel 17 and 18 for the last two Shabbat.
Right.
And I couldn't help but notice when we were going over it, some of the things like, well, the passage you just quoted obviously bullseyes on this story.
Yes.
And so we know that King Sheol was a Benjamite.
Yes.
And we also know that he tried to give David his armor, and you think about what Paul wrote about putting on the full armor of God.
Wow. Yeah.
And then, we also know that Dode has been anointed, and that Dode didn't slay the giant with an army. He slayed him with 5 stones.
Right.
We also know there's 5 terms and conditions of the covenant.
There you go.
Well, good.
That story is...
Your daughter's pretty smart. Or was that helping her some?
That was helping her.
I can't wait, Tommy, to finish the translations of all of these Sheol passages, and then I really want to go through the whole story of King Sheol. I'm not sure I'm going to pick up all of the connections that you've just made, but, if I can plagiarize you a little bit, I may reference all of them, but I think a number of chapters need to be added to questioning Paul that specifically deal with these other indictments and the entire story of the Benjamite versus the Yahud, of Paul v. Yosha, of Sheol, Shaul v. the Torah, with Dode being the advocate of the Torah, with the one that wanted the crown and political authority and military might, in opposition to the one that was just content singing Yahowah songs.
There's one more that's coming across my mind right now. How about that? We know the Shaul of the New Testament was tormented by a demon. And we also know that Shaul the king was tormented by a spirit, and then when Shaul would play music for him, that spirit would leave him alone.
Right. Yes.
There's tons of it.
There's tons of it.
I can't believe we missed it for so long. But
that was what Roy said too, and Roy's a pretty smart dude, and he said, we just all missed it, and yet it's so obvious, And how did we miss that connection? All of us, and it's so in your face. Now, all of some of these connections are pretty subtle. I mean, they're riveting when you know that Yahowah put them there for us to find them. And I don't think there's many things that bring a bigger smile to Yahweh's face, Tommy, than when you and your daughter make these connections with the 5 stones versus the army, for example. That the lyrics and the music that were sung by Dode were the antidote for the demon that was tormenting Sheol? You know, it's
pretty amazing.
It is pretty amazing. Yeah, I'm convinced that the entire presentation of King Sheol and Yahowah's warning about what he would do, what government brings, why he was asking us to walk away from government, and Shaul's defiance of the Torah. You know, he wanted to add something to the Torah and take away from the Torah. That's what finally got him into trouble. Was he talked about making rules that weren't in the Torah, and then condemning his men for violating an extension of the Torah that he himself had conceived. And that's okay. That was okay for that, but it's now but what I say, and that's what got him in trouble. Yeah, and what happened to old King Sheol? Deader than dead, right?
He didn't follow the instructions that he was given.
Right.
And when lead so good.
Yeah, and when Yahowah returns and establishes the earth back into the conditions of Eden, whose kingdom is he going to establish?
The kingdom of Dove.
Well, son of a gun, so Dove's still around, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And like I said, he didn't need an army.
No, he didn't need an army. And by the way, I don't find any place where it says that Doan had a really beautiful crown either. I don't even find a place where Doan has any ego.
Just some experience shepherding.
Yeah, and what was Yahowah's favorite metaphor for how we should view him?
The good shepherd.
As a good shepherd, indeed. Boy, between you and your daughter, those were brilliant insights, Tommy. I'm glad you called.
Yeah, I enjoyed listening to you and Kirk.
Yeah, and Kirk, thank you for making the connection to King Saul. That was yours. Good job.